Dellar, next question for you, 2 minutes. How would you increase public participation in the town's decision-making process?
I think that's relatively easy for me, and I'd refer you to my plank number 3. I believe it all starts with communication. And that communication starts with communication from the town out. You can't solicit or expect input from the citizens if the citizens don't know what's going on. And unfortunately, we have not done a very good job of pushing information out to our citizens. And so that's why I put in here for my plank number 3, communicate, communicate, communicate. We need to be as open as we possibly can in providing information to the town and actively solicit input from our citizens. Don't just expect the citizens to respond to what they hear at town council meetings. We need to push information out and actively solicit information from them. We can do that through our webpage. We have a new webpage. We can certainly do it through a listserv arrangement where we push information out through email. There's a whole host of ways we can push information out, and we need to do a much better job of communicating.
Thank you, Mr. Dellar. Ms. Schick?
I think this is a topic that has come up over and over again recently because there's a lack of transparency in our town council to our public, and there are a lot of things we can do about it. In the Planning Commission, I have encouraged a more transparent process through establishing a public outreach committee, live streaming our meetings on the platform of YouTube, which is more accessible on people's phones, and getting it out there, starting a Facebook page, a Nextdoor account. We also now have a process for responding to people's public comment at Planning Commission to make sure we get back to them about things, and we provide a transmittal letter along with our resolutions so that we explain our reasoning and process for our decision making. These are some suggestions that could also be implemented at town council. The other issue about transparency is the fact that public comment is very last on the agenda. And so things get talked about at a work session where there's no public comment made, and then they get acted on at a town council meeting where public comment comes after an actual voting point. So I think moving public comment to the beginning could help with that too.
Thank you, Ms. Schick. Mr. Ryan, 1 minute.
Yes, I believe that communication is one of the keys to getting more citizens involved in the town. A lot of the things that go on usually are generalized to maybe 1 or 2 organizations as to where we need to develop a method, maybe through the website, like Mr. Dellar brought up, that where all organizations can come together and be in attendance at these events and know the ins and outs and stuff and know what's going on. And you know, attending council meetings, I see too that sometimes if you don't go to those, you don't know what goes on. So we do need to also maybe update more on our website the big events and big decisions that are being made or coming up, more than just through a link of the minutes or the agenda on the website, but maybe highlight it more so it can be seen.
Thank you, Ms. Roberson.
I'm a proponent of newsletters and sending them out to the community, a brief one, a one-page one, maybe 4 times a year, maybe 6 times a year, where everyone contributes, the chamber, whomever that wants to put something into that newsletter and lets people know. Not only can that go on the website, but there are people who do not use computers that would like a hard copy of something. We could do surveys and ask people their opinions on certain things and what those things might be. I don't think we inform people as much as we could. And I think that these are some of the ways that we can get to people. There's also the avenue of sending things through our children and letting some of them get out there to get some of this information out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberson. Mr. Rogers?
Thank you. As Mr. Dellar mentioned in his opening statement, the key here is communication, communication, communication. Certainly the website is one means to communicate. We do have the capability to put out special notices in our water, sewer bills, our real estate bills, of important things. What I like too is the robo-phone calls. We've been using the robo-phone calls for trash pickup and emergency thing, but we may be able to use it more often throughout the time, the period, when important notices would be of importance to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Mrs. Schick, if the town received $1 million grant without any strings, what would you do with it and why?
$1 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but it's not. It's not that much money. It can be spent very quickly. I think one of the very first things that I would do is hire a grant manager. Somebody who goes out and seeks grant funding, because that $1 million is going to get spent and we're going to need $1 million afterwards. And so we need to invest in that and diversifying our income here in Colonial Beach. We can't rely solely on taxes and on $1 million donations. So we need to invest in trying to diversify that and going out and seeking other money with it. The other thing that I would do with it is, obviously we have a capital improvement plan that lists needs and prioritizes them, and we would need to talk as a council about the priorities from that plan and making the realizations in the comp plan come to life. Some of those things that are on here are must-haves. I know that our fire department needs a new engine truck. Our rescue squad is going to need a new building in the next 10 years. The stormwater management plan to comprehensively deal with stormwater here in town is a big one. And First Street signage, crosswalks, and the sidewalks at the school. I mean, there's $1 million right there, and I haven't even listed off 5 things off of the CIP. So $1 million, I think the first thing I would do is hire a grant manager to try to get us $1 million more.
Thank you, Ms. Schick. Mr. Ryan?
I agree with Ms. Schick on the aspect that $1 million although it sounds like a big number, and to us, maybe personally, it would go a long way, but town-wise, it cannot go as far as we think. Some of the things that I would like to see done are continuously, I want to see the roads fixed and the potholes around town, and it honestly drives me crazy, because I think that's a reflection of how we look as a town, and I think that's part of the beautification process. People come here and see that, they kind of think it's kind of a rundown area, and I don't want that view from our visitors that come in and spend revenue at our businesses, or spend money at our businesses that creates our revenue. And I would continue to do the stuff with Main Street. I think we can continue to beautify that and fix it up and fix the sidewalks. And sidewalks in front of the school is another great thing. I mean, kids come through the school all the time, and it's not safe letting them walk down First Street and not have a sidewalk to walk on with cars that go down the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Ms. Roberson?
Yes, I agree with the beautification aspect of it. It always is so nice when we clean up for the 4th of July, or we clean up for River Festival, and everything is put together so beautifully. I think that it would be nice if we could keep that going all year round. The other amenities that the 2 previous people have mentioned are certainly things that we need, because we do want to be able to walk around our community. We do want to be able to feel safe. We do want the lighting and the sidewalks and different things like that make this a great place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberson. Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Getty, would you repeat the question again
Certainly.
without the microphone?
If the town received $1 million grant without any strings, what would you do with it and why?
Only $1 million?
Only $1 million.
Well, that's the problem. What I'd like to see is a plan that we would take a complete street in its entirety and mill it up and repave it. This business about doing the pothole patching, there's something like you can't take a new piece of cloth and mend an old cloak. It doesn't work by just patching some of these in spots. But if we could just save money, put up a budget, I don't know how many millions of dollars that would take. Maybe we get some of this infrastructure money from the federal government. But We need to take the most busy, most used streets and just build them up completely from one end to the other to really do an adequate job.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Dellar?
Yeah, $1 million. I guess ideally what I would like to do is prioritize our needs before spending that money. But if you're asking me right off the top of my head what I would like to do with that $1 million, I guess number one, as I look around town, the main pier needs to be repaired. We have a pier on Monroe Bay Avenue that needs to be removed. Like Mr. I mentioned, the roads need to be patched. It's a continuous issue with patching potholes. There seems to be a never-ending frustration with leaks. It seems like the leaks are fixed 1 week and 2 weeks later they're leaking again. I know $1 million isn't going to take care of that, but I guess ideally prioritize. And you know, I've got something down here on my plank number 6 that I think is very important, and that's getting involved in some type of summer work program for our students. I'll talk about that later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dellar. Okay, Mr. I. What ideas do you have regarding the vacant town-owned buildings that are in disrepair?
The vacant town-owned buildings, town buildings in disrepair, I believe is a major problem. This keeps going back to how I say how things look, and that's got to be fixed. First thing I would do is, we obviously need to get rid of them. I don't know if it's ourselves that will have to knock them down and clear the land, but I personally want to see it go commercial, and we find businesses that come in and take over some of these buildings that can create more revenue for the town. Homes are nice, and I do want to see more permanent residents, like Mr. Rogers said earlier, in town. But I also think we need ways to further our revenue as a town through taxes and such in the business aspect, where if we have more business, we make more money. And that's the same thing with the business. It also creates competition, which will hopefully improve our businesses in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. I. Ms. Roberson?
Yes, I agree with many of the things that Mr. I has said. I would say either sell the land extremely cheaply or knock it down and see what a developer would think would be the best thing to do with that piece of land. We have a center so close to the beach where we have so many vacant areas that were viable businesses at one time, and we really do need those businesses. And the main streets that you visit that have been under the projects and people have redone their businesses is what makes you want to go into those shops and buy from those shops. So I think that would be the perfect thing to do with the land that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberson. Mr. Rogers?
Yes, if we're talking about buildings that are in total disrepair, I agree with Mr. I, they should be raised or demolished and properly cleared off and put it up for sale for potential commercial business to come into town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Dellar?
All right, well, I guess I'd refer you to my platform plank number 5, which is market properties. If you're just talking about the current vacant properties, many are in disrepair, but they're not in such a state that they couldn't be refurbished. We see a case of that with the old police department, where that property was sold and it's going to be refurbished. And I understand it's going to be a restaurant with the bar on top. It should be quite a nice addition to our town. So, the first thing that we need to do is look at our total properties and go to each one and actively market them, or determine what we want in that area, what we want our town to be. I guess that's the first step, is what do we want our town to look like in the future? And that gets to developing a good vision and mission statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dellar. Ms. Schick?
Town properties that are not maintained are a burden to our community and our capital resources. Most of these buildings are in the downtown district. The town of Colonial Beach owns more than 52 parcels between Washington Avenue and the boardwalk. I would hope that we can get these properties either torn down in the case of the Klotz building, which is unsalvageable, or marketed with a realtor in the case of the Westmoreland Bank building, and provide assistance and incentives to renovation process for a new buyer to make the investment of maintaining the building. Most of the land that I would like to sell isn't even listed with a realtor, so that needs to come first. These properties need to be listed in the MLS, they need to be advertised, and they need to be made publicly available that they are for sale. The next step for property that's already for sale and does not have a realtor, it does have a realtor, such as the old school location. The Planning Commission has identified several uses for that property that could progress through a private-public partnership. These types of investment, you have to go out and seek, and the town needs to identify partnerships to reach them out in an active manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schick. Ms. Roberson, what are your thoughts regarding bringing more subsidized housing to town?
At this point in Colonial Beach's development, I'm not sure exactly where subsidized housing could go. We seem to have the majority of our housing in residential areas, and where our subsidized housing is seems to be a pocketed area. I really have to, I don't have a problem with subsidized housing as long as it's taken care of, and which I consider the properties that we have in town to be well taken care of. But I'm just not sure where that subsidized housing could go at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Roberson. Mr. Rogers?
Subsidized housing. Okay, we have 2.8 square miles here in Colonial Beach. I don't know where we would put it, and you say subsidized, are you talking about, are we talking about our county, our own city coffers to support this? I don't know where it would come from our town budget to support any subsidized housing. I think we have, I don't know that there's a demand for it right now, and if we have subsidized housing outside our 2.8 square miles, we've got to consider on whether or not we have the resources to provide for that. What kind of support can we actually get from the county to help us with that? Like I say, I don't think our budget can withstand any subsidized housing. And
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Dellar?
Thank you. Several months ago, I had the opportunity to review and rewrite Chapter 6 of our comprehensive plan. That chapter had roughly 278 affordable housing contained in it. These are units that are not detached, and I'm sure that they would include some subsidized housing. My rewrite of that essentially charged us to partner with the county, and if there was to be any need for subsidized or affordable homes, that we would work with the county to put those homes outside, within the Colonial Beach community perhaps, but not within the town limits. So within the town limits, I don't see a need for any subsidized housing, but if the need exists in our community, then we should work with the county to have those subsidized homes outside the town limits of Colonial Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Dellar. Mr. Schick?
There's an enormous amount of data in the housing chapter about what affordable homes mean and how that affects our community. And the most of that data really talked about us. It talked about young people coming back with affordable places to live, old people getting older and living on a fixed income. It wasn't focused specifically on subsidized housing, but yet on an affordable place to live and what that means for our community. What I'd really like to see develop are 8th through 12th Street. I want to see 8th and 9th Street develop first based on our growth rate so that we can get refunded for that back through connection fees. I want to see mixed-use buildings in our downtown region. I want to see density there. I want to see more people live, work, play, eat, stay, all in that one section. And I think that we need to look forward to an assisted living development for our aging community. We have a waiting list of the one we have now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schick. Mr. Ryan?
As far as subsidized housing, I'm kind of with Ms. Robertson and Mr. Rogers on this. I don't exactly know where we could do that and how our means are of doing that with, honestly, land. We have a lot of developed land with homes on it, and I think our focus should more be to find more permanent residents that want to move into those and continue to grow that way through family homes and such as that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.